I know the seasonal model is something of a controversial topic, but personally I enjoy it. I like getting a new activity and story arc every few months, and I really get excited for the weapons. Shotguns are always one I get excited for. Regardless of the shooter, shotguns are a staple. Doesn't matter the game either. Call of Duty, Doom, Battlefield, Halo, and Destiny is no different. Even back during year 1, when shotguns were heavy weapons, you knew to respect Acreus, and you were probably terrified of this bitch right here. Sure, there are weapons that might be more refined, like sniper rifles, or way more potent, like fusion rifles, but shotguns have always been a top pick among players. Presumably because there's just something satisfying about performing exploratory surgery with buckshot. So you can imagine my excitement when I found out a number of Forsaken-era classics returned to us as craftables this season. During Season of the Haunted, we saw the return of most of the menagerie weapons with Austringer, Drang, Calus Minitool, Beloved, Fixed Odds, and Epicurean. But we were still missing the class-specific swords as well as the Imperial Decree shotgun, so I was excited when I learned these could be focused at the war table this season via recovered Leviathan weapon engrams. Now the gameplay in the background is going to be gameplay I got a while ago with some clips from Iron Banner here and there. At this point, I'm just getting whatever clips I can. Bungie somehow keeps making PvP worse, and I'm quickly losing my drive to play, so it's a little rushed, but I wanted to have this out before Banner is back up, and the gameplay isn't really the point of this video anyway, but this is going to be a pretty interesting review regardless. Now, Imperial Decree is an aggressive frame kinetic shotgun, and it was one of the best ones around back when it was available via the Menagerie during the Golden Age of Destiny, the Forsaken era. Granted, with kinetic shotguns, I don't think I ever saw Imperial Decree as much as Dustrock Blues, may she rest in peace, sunsetting was a mistake, but it's still a much-loved weapon by the community and something of an iconic weapon. I was also relieved when I discovered that, unlike Mindbender's Ambition, Bungie did not, in fact, massacre my boy. Not only do we have most of the same perks, but Bungie actually improved the perk pool drastically with the addition of perks like Surplus, Autoloading, Pugilist, and Opening Shot, among others. So I immediately set out trying to get this thing craftable, and after dozens of runs of Defiant Battlegrounds and even more Defiant Engrams, I managed to get it craftable relatively quickly. Then I focused on getting it leveled. So for the big question, how does Imperial Decree perform? Well, it's fine? This review is painful for a couple of reasons. Number one, like I said, I got most of these clips when Iron Banner was up a while ago, and Iron Banner hasn't been good since we unfortunately lost CBMM Eruption and got FBMM and SBMM added into the mode. So if you're a solo player, you'll load in and mostly be playing against partial and mostly full stacks. FBMM feels fine in Trial so far, but it's dog shit in 6v6. So in order to preserve my mental health, when I go into Iron Banner, I just do whatever I want and I just don't give a shit, and I'd recommend you do the same. It's a no-stakes game mode, so I can't be fucked to give a shit about Iron Banner in its current state. If nothing else, running around like an idiot and trolling with Decree was a good time. And number two, I tried it on Hunter, Titan, and Warlock, and on different subclasses on each. I desperately wanted this thing to perform well, to punch above its pay grade, and it does. Sort of. Now if we're talking about pellet shotguns in the kinetic slot, in the current sandbox the best option is going to be Fractithist, a stasis precision frame shotgun. I think everyone knows that at this point. Frac has all the standard perks you want on a shotgun: accurized rounds, assault mag, quick draw, slide shot, and the king of shotgun perks, opening shot. So yes, if you have a god roll Fractithus, it's better than Imperial Decree. I just want to get that out of the way right now before someone brings it up. With precision frames being the best pellet shotgun archetype and Fractithus being an S-tier precision frame shotgun, no shit it's going to be better than Decree. So is Imperial Decree even worth it? Let's talk about it. We'll start by taking a look at its perks. In the first column, small bore, smooth bore, corkscrew rifling, barrel shroud, rifled barrel, full choke. Second column, extended mag, steady rounds, appended mag, light mag, tactical mag, assault mag, and accurized rounds. In the third column, threat detector, pugilist, autoloading holster, stats for all, surplus, and slide shot. In the fourth column, surrounded, swashbuckler, snapshot sights, shot swap, opening shot, and trench barrel. There's also its intrinsic perks: to excess, final blows with this weapon while your super is full, grant a bonus to strength and discipline for a moderate duration. This weapon is craftable too, so you can enhance the perks of your choosing in the third and fourth columns. First off, like I said, I was very excited to see Decree return, so I tried a ton of different roles to see how I could maximize it. The first one I tried was the one that I think most people have been using on it: Barrel Shroud, Accurized Rounds, Threat Detector, and Opening Shot. Barrel Shroud for the help with handling, Accurized for the range bump, Threat Detector because while Surplus is technically faster with the handling bump, it's not my top choice in the current sandbox, and I'll explain that in a bit here. Lastly, I put on Opening Shot. While I did try other perks in the fourth column as well, Opening Shot is so important on shotguns that if you have the option for it, I wouldn't use anything else, at least in PvP. I also paired this with dexterity mods to increase my handling. Keep in mind, if your primary also has slow handling, you'll want to adjust your mods accordingly because stowaway speed is important too. Despite this, the shotgun's dexterity felt inconsistent. Of course, this is just due to Threat Detector. It procs when an enemy is in close proximity to you and boosts your handling. It will stack twice if there's more than one enemy close to you, but the inconsistency could still be rather frustrating. I know this is something of an anomaly these days, but I actually use my primary as my main weapon, meaning I have my primary out for the majority of the match. I keep a shotgun on me for what I like to call defensive shotgun use. What I mean by this is if someone's really pushing you hard, say they're aping you with a shotgun or a glaive or trying to get close enough for a melee, it's nice to have a shotgun in your back pocket that you can quickly whip out to give you a better chance of shutting that shit down. But with Decree, even with the dexterity mods and Threat Detector, sometimes I just couldn't actually get it up and in the fight when I needed it the most. So I thought, okay, maybe Threat Detector just isn't the play, so instead I swapped it out for Surplus. Now Surplus works like this: the more abilities you have up, the more it helps the handling on the weapon, and with all my abilities up and the same dexterity mods I mentioned before, it's noticeably faster. And with 2 abilities up, it's still very fast. The problem is that in the current sandbox where everyone is constantly spamming as many abilities as they can, you're fucking yourself over with Surplus. Getting the full benefits of Surplus means being conservative with your abilities, which is a problem when chances are your opponents will be using all of theirs every chance they get because Bungie refuses to address ability spam in PvP. Using your abilities as frequently as the current sandbox requires means you'll hardly ever be getting the full benefits of Surplus. So while it's still faster than Threat Detector, it still wouldn't necessarily be my first choice. Back before Witch Queen, you know, back when people still actually primarily used their weapons, it would be a different story. The last thing I tried was Slide Shot. Now Slide Shot doesn't help your handling, but it does give you the bonus to your range when you slide. Slide Shot isn't usually my first choice on shotgun. It's a perk for shotgun aping, not really how I like to use shotguns. But with Slide Shot, while the bump to range was nice, the problem is that it tanked my handling so much that the gun felt like ass because it was too slow. Granted, for shotgun aping, handling isn't all that important, as range takes precedence, so for that playstyle, it really doesn't matter as much. I don't know why Bungie has done so much to hurt weapon handling over the last couple of years, because absolutely no one in this community was going, gee, I sure wish my weapons felt like I was dragging them through a swamp with 50-pound weights tied to them, because we all know that slow handling weapons objectively feel like shit. But of course, for PvP, does anyone really know what Bungie's doing these days? Anyway, Imperial Decree is the perfect example of the issue with aggressive frames right now, and why precision frames are just the better choice. Sure, aggressive frames hit harder, but precision frames still hit hard enough and typically have better range, slightly better handling, and their pellet spread just makes them more consistent. And some of them can still roll with Quick Draw, which is still the best overall handling perk for a shotgun. This can be a big deal, especially if you're using your shotgun defensively. Quite frankly, the easiest counter to a shotgun ape is another shotgun, but it has to have high handling for that purpose. Decree honestly disappointed me at first. I've warmed up to it since. Would I take a crafted Imperial Decree over a God Roll Fractithist? No. Would I take it over a Fractithist with even just a good roll? Probably still no. But as aggressive frames go, yeah, it's good. I don't regret crafting it, and in a meta like Destiny where metas shift often, I'd recommend crafting one and putting away in your vault, or using it as a substitute for something like a God Roll Frac. Now as far as PvP goes, let's talk about what I would probably recommend for rolls. As we talk about rolls, I'll show the perks on the screen. My top choices for PvP will be highlighted in red, my top choices for PvE will be highlighted in blue, something to keep in mind for future videos and past videos as well. For PvP, if you're using the shotgun defensively like I described, something you can swap to quickly if someone gets too close for comfort, I'd go with Barrel Shroud in the first column for the extra handling, Accurized in the second for the range, Threat Detector in the third column for the handling when an enemy is close by, and Opening Shot in the fourth column for the boost to aim assist and range on the first shot. If you're someone who just naturally does not use abilities all that often, then Surplus might be a better choice than Threat Detector as long as you remember the shortcomings Surplus has that I mentioned previously. If you're a brain-dead shotgun ape, you can trade out Barrel Shroud for Rifled Barrel, Corkscrew Rifling, Small Bore, or maybe Smooth Bore if you're willing to take the extra spread. Accurized rounds would still be my first choice for the range, but Assault Mag will increase your rate of fire and wouldn't be a bad choice either. In the third column, best choice is going to be Slide Shot, no question here. This is the top choice of shotgun apes for a reason. All you have to do is slide into an engagement and you get a plus 20 range bump. In the fourth column, the best choice here is still Opening Shot. Shotguns right now are still very inconsistent and Opening Shot helps a lot with this. Your handling with this role will definitely feel like shit, so make sure you throw on a couple of kinetic dexterity mods. Unless you're an Ophidian's Warlock, in which case it probably doesn't matter. Now for PvE, in the first column, any of the previously mentioned perks will still work. In the second column, I'd probably take Assault Mag over Accurized just for the increased rate of fire. In the third column, definitely auto-loading holster for obvious reasons, or Pugilist if you're using a melee build, since with Pugilist, getting kills with the weapon will help recharge your melee, and dealing melee damage will improve the weapon's handling. Stats for All is also a good PvE perk. I prefer it for primary weapons, but it would work fine here as well. In the fourth column, Swashbuckler or Trench Barrel. Swash will increase the weapon's damage anytime you get a kill with the weapon or with a melee. Trench Barrel will increase the weapon's damage, handling, and reload speed after a melee hit. It will do this for a few seconds or for 3 consecutive shots from Decree. Those would be my recommended rolls. The main issue is that with the perk pool, this was clearly a shotgun that had PvP more in mind. There are a few PvE options, but honestly, if I want an aggressive frame shotgun for PvE, Ragnhild has way more to offer there, given that it has auto-loading holster and subsistence in the third column, as well as Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie, 1-2 Punch, and Thresh in the fourth column. If you're using melee builds, Astral Horizon has more to offer there, with Pugilist in the third column, and both 1-2 Punch and Swashbuckler in the fourth column. So Imperial Decree, to me at least, was a mixed experience. Is it still worth crafting? In this case, I would say yes it is, because with how precision frame shotguns are overperforming compared to every other pellet shotgun archetype, I would imagine that either precision frames will get nerfed, or our other archetypes will get buffed at some point. When that day comes, being able to craft one of these will be extremely helpful. Luckily, while it's still up to the RNG and the engram focusing, getting this thing crafted shouldn't be too bad since Defiant engrams drop like candy. Seriously, I had like 250 of them stacked up at the war table a little while ago, and that was enough to get 2 of the Leviathan swords crafted and halfway through the third with plenty to spare, so Decree shouldn't be an issue. So I'd still craft it, and just put it away in the vault for the time being. It's a fine substitute if you don't have a good kinetic shotgun, but chances are if you've been playing since Witch Queen, you already have the Ragnhild craftable for PvE, and for PvP, I'd just keep an eye on Zur each week to see if he brings a good Fractithist, and use Decree in the meantime. But that's pretty much all that I have to say on Imperial Decree. If there is definitely a very good thing I can say about it, it would be that maybe this is a sign that Bungie learned something from the poor reception that Mindbenders received. Mindbenders was an iconic weapon back during the Forsaken era. It was a much loved, much feared weapon. Like I said in my video about the possibility of the Black Armory weapons coming back, if Bungie is going to bring back iconic weapons, they absolutely cannot do so unless they either A, keep the perks the same, or B, make the perk pool even better. That's what they did with Decree. The perk pool is actually better than what it was back when it first came out, particularly with the addition of Opening Shot. So yes, this weapon is still worth crafting. This is a weapon that I think will at some point become extremely potent. Metas shift in Destiny. We will, without question, see another sandbox where aggressive frames are the play again. We just don't know when. But when that day does come, it will be worth your time to have a crafted Imperial Decree ready to go in your vault. As a side note to Bungie, please, for the love of God, bring back Imperial Decree's ornament like you did with the other Menagerie weapons. The base model is just so ugly in comparison. But that's all for me today, Guardians. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to leave me a like and hit that subscribe button with the bell icon. It really does help me out. Let me know how you're liking Imperial Decree 2. Do you have it crafted yet? Do you think it's a good weapon? Let me know your thoughts. But for now, I will see you all in the next video. Peace, Guardians.